All right, everyone, welcome back into another Fantasy Golf video. Going to be breaking down the Scottish Open, and I can also touch on the ISCO Championship. I might just call it the Barbasol Championship. But we're going to be touching on those two things again, mostly the Scottish Open. But if you guys have any questions, get those in. But yeah, looking at today's video, obviously a later video. The nice thing about today is not too much to touch on, I would say. To me, this seems like more of a straightforward week, which hopefully is a good thing. So I say we kind of just jump right into a little bit of the prize picks and underdog talk. Then we'll get into some round one more bets, I guess, as well. So let's jump into those props. And so props betting for round one, to me, the best bet that we have is actually going to be this Corey Connors one. A lot of people are saying that the course is going to play easier this week. And if that indeed is going to be the case, well, Corey Connors is one of the players that ranks out pretty good this week, especially when you compare him against others that are around that same stroke average. Robert McIntyre is a good example of that. I'm not saying Robert McIntyre is going to play poorly. I'm just going to say Corey Connors is a better play this week DFS-wise than Robert McIntyre, especially in round one scoring as well. So we're going to see Corey Connors pop up as a good round one showdown play in general. So why wouldn't we be betting him for under his strokes at 68.5? That is a weird one to me, that his strokes is off on PrizePicks and Underdog. That's a good under bet on PrizePicks. But in terms of prop line differences, that's really all that we got. That's the biggest prop line difference that we have. And that has been super, super annoying lately, guys. The fact that PrizePicks and Underdog are so close together with all their lines lately. And I think it's whoever does the PrizePicks account is literally just waiting until the last minute so that they can have the exact same line. So kind of annoying there. But when we look at it here, we're looking at PrizePicks here. Where are we getting the biggest edges? It is on Rory to have under 5 birdies. And so some of you guys are probably watching this and saying, well, if it is going to score easier than expected this year compared to previous years, guys, only averaged about 3 birdies. And so Rory would have to get 3 more than that to hit his over. Is it really going to play 2 times as easy than that? That's tough to say. And I know it's a little bit different when we're looking at this is the average. Obviously, Rory is not an average player. I get that. But man, this is definitely interesting. And if you guys think, all right, he is going to get over 5 birdies. Well, pick 6 has him at 4.5 birdies or better. So that'd be a better option for you guys there is to bet him on pick 6 to get that over. And also, this one's an interesting one. Rory actually projected to get more birdies or better than Xander. I don't know if I exactly agree with that, but that's kind of where it ends for PrizePicks purposes for props. When we jump into, let's zoom this out a little bit. When we jump into underdog, again, going to be more of the same there. But looking at it, fantasy points, Aaron Rai for the under. Again, this tournament's going to be playing as easy as it seems like it could. I don't know if I exactly want to be targeting these under fantasy scores just because, again, is it going to play that easy? I don't know. And this is fascinating by underdog here, especially comparison the Corey Connors and Robert McIntyre lines again on PrizePicks here. The difference is kind of interesting that underdog, I would say more accurately, has Corey Connors expected to score more, which I think we would all agree is more correct. I know a lot of people are on McIntyre DFS wise. We'll get into that in a second, but definitely interesting there. So that just furthers my point that should be a good bet there for Corey Connors to get under 68.5 for his strokes. So let's go ahead and jump into a little bit more of round one betting in general. We're going to jump on into some matchup bets. Okay, so what are we looking at for matchup bet wise today? Can I say that? Is it technically today over there? Whatever, for the Thursday round. But looking at it, obviously we have 2 different ways of looking at prop bets here. And I know a lot of people are probably just using more American books and more of the standard books. So let's just go with some of those ones. More of the popular ones. So we are getting a lot for Pinnacle here in terms of edges. Now, Pinnacle is kind of known as being the sharpest book out there. So that does give me a little bit weary. But when we compare it, some of the edges that we are getting is looking at Sungjae Im to lose to Aaron Rai. That's been a bet that's popped up a few times now. Kind of interesting. For the most part, it's hit. That's going to be for the tournament. Let's just sort it by tournament as well. We'll do tournament and then round one. So a lot of pinnacle bets. That's kind of crazy, the amount of pinnacle bets that we have. So Tom Kim losing to Adam Scott for the tournament. Taylor Moore losing to Andrew Novak. That's one I can get behind. That's one that I like. So you can get Andrew Novak beating Taylor Moore at plus 102. That's a decent odds there. Yeah, Robert McIntyre losing to Seb Straka. A lot of people love Robert McIntyre this week. Seb Straka, definitely more of a GPP only play, I would say, in DFS. Betting wise, though, that's a decent edge that we were getting in terms of projection. So interesting there. Let's go ahead and look at it from more of a sportsbook side. So the reason why we're looking at like this now is sorting by sportsbook, and we're going to use this edge instead here. That it makes sense. I probably should have explained that. So we got the 9 to 5 edge. Let's do that real quick. So when we're looking at the 9 to 5 edge, we're looking at this column right here. Okay. And then when we're looking at the sportsbook edge line, sorting by that, we're looking at this edge right here. There's two different ways to kind of go about looking at it. When we're looking at this, we're just comparing the Pinnacle line against the average sportsbook odds for that line. So Pinnacle is off, and we can look at it like this. Here are the book odds. Here are the average odds. So Pinnacle is off by about 2.86%. That is where we're going to get some good value there. And so you could bet then Colin Morikawa to beat Obear for the tournament. It's a slight edge, but it's an edge that can work out. From there, we got Hovland as well. Winner over Tommy Fleetwood. Don't mind that. Corey Connors, winner over Matt Fitzpatrick. I actually do like that one a decent amount. You guys are going to see Corey Connors is very much being disrespected by DFS side and betting side. Hopefully that's a good thing. It obviously doesn't always work out, but it did for the most part last week with a lot of those same names that were popping up. Xander to beat Rory. That's a slight edge for the tournament, but still don't mind that. I mean, minus 120 for Rory when Xander has, I don't want to say he's been always beating Rory. I mean, that should be a close one, but Xander each week for the past, 2 years now has typically ranked out slightly better than Rory. That's the case again this week. So I would expect Xander to still show up and still play well. And obviously I do expect Rory to play well as well this week, obviously coming into his first start since the US Open, but not too worried about him. So decent odds for the tournament ones. Let's go ahead and look at round one though. So round one, a little bit tighter with some of these lines, as it should be. I mean, that's going to make sense. I don't know if I really like any of these ones too much. Tom Kim beating Minwoo Lee for the round. Again, that's on Pinnacle. I'm always curious, like, do people just mostly play on DraftKings and FanDuel? I'm always curious about that because I could just do DraftKings, like right here. Ryan Fox losing to Keith Mitchell in round one. Ryan Fox is slightly more favored there. Look at that's a decent edge there, about 6% for the edge there. So that's a decent one. Typically we want to be finding these plus odd bets, but we're just not really getting those today. And that's really the only DraftKings one that we have. So again, I just never know if it's really worthwhile to do ones that aren't like FanDuel. So Ryan Fox then losing to Keith Mitchell again would be another one. This one actually has Keith Mitchell as the favorite. So that should kind of tell you how good of a bet that first one was on DraftKings there, whereas the opposite. And so that's a small edge that you can gain there as well. We're going to go ahead now and just jump into a little bit of round one showdown as well. We kind of touched on the betting for round one. We do have some 3-ball bets I guess I can touch on as well. Let's jump into those. Guys, I should recap from last week's video. Massive stuff there from round one. And let me just look it up on Twitter here as I tweet out the results. We had 1 loss, 1 push, and I think it was like 6 wins, but let me just double check that here. Good call. If you guys are watching on Twitter, appreciate it. Give a like right now. If you guys are watching on Twitter right now, you could do that. Not saying you have to do that though. I just want to see what that was. Yeah. 1 loss, 6 wins, and 1 push. So this 3-ball bets continues to be a big edge. I mean, all the tools are pretty solid, but this one This is just the one I've had out the longest in terms of betting. So more predictable in the sense of like calling out good edges. But we can see, don't exactly love this one, Aaron Rye, just given the fact that it's not the best payout odds there. Same thing with EVR. For me, typically, I'm trying to find ones like this, like Justin Rose. That's a very good betting odds there. So you can find this on DraftKings or FanDuel or wherever you bet. Justin Rose to beat Nick Taylor and Colin Hill. Decent there. Let's see your other ones. Matthew Jordan beating out Matthias and also Cole. That's okay. That's more. I don't feel like we need to bet on that. Not players I typically see that often, so no need to bet them, I would say. Let's see what other ones we have. I mean, Matt Wallace winning his, or sorry, where did I see Matt? Oh, Matt Wallace is right here. Yeah, Matt Wallace winning his, I'd be fine with that. But I actually like this one with Keith Mitchell. Do you exactly want to double dip that much if you're already betting on Ryan Fox losing to Keith Mitchell? It's up to you to decide. But obviously, this is a decent edge here. Keith Mitchell winning that. I mean, that's strong. And continuing on, we are getting a lot of decently good bets here. I would say really from Tagala up, I feel pretty happy to bet on these all, honestly. I like that. It's a decent edge there. And the reason I break it up like this as separate stuff, like the matchup bets and the 3-ball bets, because for me, I like to tell people to commit. You can do what you want, do what works for you, but kind of commit to one or the other, unless there's a really big edge that you see, just because they're going to have a more consistent performance. There's going to be less of a roller coaster. You can better gauge kind of how you're doing, if that makes sense. Let's go ahead and jump on into some showdown picks now. In ownership in a second. So round 1 showdown. I mentioned Corey Connors was someone that we're probably looking at for round 1 showdown. He's actually ranking out as the 3rd best play. Now, when we look at it from a fantasy score perspective, is it exactly that? Let's see. Yeah, so the data likes him. So yeah, Corey Connors, someone that's definitely being disrespected. I would say just across the board, he's someone that more likely than not we'll probably have to go out of our way to target showdown purposes. Again, we'll talk about him ownership wise. Corey Connors is actually the best leverage play on the board as well. So interestingly enough, now again, my data typically skews more towards safety and upside. And so obviously Corey Connors making a bunch of cuts in a row, been an extremely safe and reliable option at a cheap price tag as well. Someone that consistently puts up good results, especially in round 1. It makes sense why he's going to be grading out pretty well there. And so yeah, Corey Connors on the season, one of the better round 1 scorers. And so it makes sense. So he's someone from like a value side, showdown wise. We're probably going out of our way to roster. But then after that, nothing too crazy. Aaron Rye, Davis Thompson, they're continuing to pop up in there. Tom Kim, someone you're maybe looking at, and then Keith Mitchell. So again, this data all works off of itself. So it makes sense why someone like Keith Mitchell, Corey Connors, why their names pop up frequently when we're looking at it by round basis. This goes off of how they produce their results more in round 1 compared to the rest of the rounds. So that's why when we're looking at it by round basis, makes sense why those players are going to continuously pop up when we're looking at the round stuff. So that's someone we're probably looking at. And let's just kind of do a quick run here. Actually, I've already done them. Give me a second here. I'll zoom this out so you guys can see. And yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, this is round 1 showdown. And so probably too heavy here. That's typically my strategy. I typically like to do around 35% max exposure. Again, do what works for you guys. This is where I see the biggest edges here is when it hits, it really does hit, But yeah, so Aaron Rye, Davis Thompson, Alex Noren. So it is really going more of a fair and balanced approach, but still getting a lot of Rory, a lot of Xander. Substrack is popping up in there. So I'm kind of okay with that. Looking at it now, maybe 40% is a little bit too high. Maybe let's just do it real quick. Bump this down to 30%. And if it truly is going to be as easy scoring as some people think it's going to, just because the course might play softer than it has in the past, and it's already determined that can play easier on when that happens, very rare. We could put a little bit of randomness into that. I don't think we need to do that. Let's just generate this just to see. It's just going to be more spread out, I would assume. Yeah, so just more spread out. Don't really like getting 25% of Billy Horschel. Probably don't need to do that. kind of fine with the rest. Obviously, EVR, Tom Hoagie, those are good like stat fits for this week. So I could see being on them for round 1 Showdown. That kind of does it for Showdown. Let's go ahead and get into probably what a lot of people are here for. Let's jump into the outright bets. And I actually jump into the write up here. So again, if you guys want access to this, you can just go to the homepage actually. Scroll down to the bottom. You can just sign up using your email and that'll give you guys a notification when this goes through. So last week, I think it's worth calling out. The 9 to 5 outright tag hit another winner. It's been consistently hitting now throughout the season. That's typically what we see, guys, during the middle of the season, just as an FYI. It's that, and I mentioned this on the core plays video, or the preview video. We have actually had more statistical winners in terms of, like, if you just bet on the top 5% in the 9 to 5 model, we've had more lately, ever since the first 6 weeks than we've had the past 2 years. And I know you're taking out 6 weeks, so it's not the best sample to do that. But we know the beginning of every season is always the most random. And actually, during the stretch, we've had a lot of predictable winners. Now, I know Scotty's skewing that, Xander's skewing that, and Roy's skewing that, where each week they're like 1 or 2. That is getting skewed a little bit. I get that. And even Roy winning it with Shane Lowry, like he was the second ranked play there as well. But even in the weeks where we've had random winners, you look at Cameron Davis being a random winner, 2 second place finishers there. You look at Robert McIntyre winning. I think that was the one where maybe it was, or maybe the Davis Riley week. Anyways, we had Keegan Bradley and Scotty finished T2 there. So this has kind of been a more predictable stretch lately. It's just when Scotty wins, and I get why people on Twitter and stuff don't exactly like that, because the odds are so low, but it's been pretty predictable this year, even more so than it has been in years past. And so kind of a weird stretch. But that being said, getting into this call out here, what this does is this is predicting which players are good outright bets. The way that this is determined is by looking at the previous 2 seasons of winners. Like what key stats and which metrics led to those players winning that tournament that week. And so pull that into a general average for the whole for the whole year, and it's going to be based off of the 80th percentile for all those stats. And so these are the golfers that meet that threshold for this week. It's a bigger list this week. We typically do not see this big of a list. Last week it was Davis Thompson and I think Maverick McNeely. Obviously McNeely sucked. But I find this fascinating that we have, what is it, 7 statistically good outright bets. Now, obviously, if you guys look at a little bit lower, I'm going a little bit different than that. But I'm still going Rory, Xander, Aaron Rai. Fleetwood I'm adding in there. I think Fleetwood has a good chance to win, and Ming-Woo Lee. So I'm not including Obear. I'm not including Colin Morikawa. And I don't know, Hideki before a major, I just don't want to target. We have not seen him be consistent there. And so I'll be covering these as well. But give me a second here. I want to pull up the tweet that I put out with the graphic there, so we can just touch on it. It'll be easier there. Give me a second. I just tweeted both outrights that I'm doing, like the cards, if you will. So let's get into this. So for the Scottish Open, this is kind of what I'm looking at outright-wise for this week. And so we got Tommy Fleetwood at 22-1 on PointsBet. Guys, PointsBet has actually been giving us some good odds lately. Again, I know a lot of people are probably just doing DraftKings, probably just doing FanDuel, maybe some BetMGM as well. You probably should be just because they pay out the ties. But then Xander, I'm fine at 9-1. You can actually get Rory at 8.5-1 on Bovada. I would still be fine at 8-1. I know he's there on some sites. Then Aaron Rai, former winners. I mean, I'm betting on 4 former winners. I don't like that, but they do all pop pretty well here. So Aaron Rai, 40-1. The thought process with Aaron Rai is that, I don't know, for him, it hasn't really seemed like a mental grind the last 2 weeks, even though he's been in contention to win. And even though it hasn't really felt like too much of a letdown. Like 2 weeks ago, he really probably should have been the one that won. And it's side note, he hasn't technically qualified for the Open Championship yet. I'm not sure what he has to do this week to qualify, or even if he can. That's crazy. He's been like a top 20. I will say definitively, he has been a top 20 player in the world this year. And we can get him at 40 to 1 at an event that he's won previously. That, I mean, it is. It's like laughable to me that we can get that good of odds on Aaron Rai for a guy that's coming in off of 2 awesome events now. And I know what people are saying, well, he has to make the flight over. How is he going to be able to deal with that? I mean, he's dealt with that before. That's kind of been his career, right? And so when we're looking at him, oh, and I forgot to mention, I have updated this a little bit more here, guys, the profile. Oh, I guess I didn't push it through. Oh, man. I was excited. Actually, I might just need a refresh. Let's see. I've had this browser source open for a while. Let me just see. I was working on this prior to the live stream. That's why it's a little bit later today. But I might just need to finalize the update. So give me a second. I want to see. Oh, it's not coming through yet. You know what? I'm going to try to do that right now if I can, because it's kind of fun. I included 3-ball bets and kind of their form in there as well. So I want to see if I can pull that in. Anyways, the point is, course history-wise, yes, it's been spotty. We know that. But this is definitely the best golf he's been playing in his career in general. And you could maybe look at his win 4 years ago. Yes, it's 4 years ago. We don't typically care too much about that. But at the same time, it's never a bad sign at all. And so I do like the fact that we can get him at 40 to 1 on most sites. Basically every single site. Pinnacle, about 4.9 to 1. That's pretty good. Bet365, you guys have access to that, 45 to 1. So very good odds for him across the board this week. And it's just something that I feel like shouldn't be happening for a guy that's been a former winner. And if you look at over his past 7 starts, 3 top 10 finishes in there, all made cuts, really 1 bad start mixed in there. And so it's a strange one to me. I'll just say that. And again, I'm just checking on my end real quick. It should be working. So I'm going to refresh this one more time. But again, if you guys have any questions, you can get those in. I know we just got one comment from ST. Can't wait for another good tournament week. Hopefully. I mean, it's been a nice little stretch here. It's weird. The last 2 weeks have been better betting weeks than it has been like DFS weeks. And prior to that, it was basically, I don't want to say it was bad betting wise, but like the last 2 weeks were just really good betting wise. But prior to that, just an awesome stretch for DFS as well. So kind of it's just the portion of the season that we're in, just a little bit more predictable, which is always nice. All right, so we're going to get into Mingwoo Lee a little bit here as well. So that update, I'll have to just check that out. It'll be ready for next week for the Open Championship for you guys. But looking at it right now, it's like this is supposed to be recent form, and then we had 3-ball bets below that. So, and then I'm going to have matchup bets below that as well, which I'm excited for. I think that's a nice little asset to have included in there. Anyways, we can see his outright odds. We can see his profile as well. I'm actually really shocked at the value that Mingwoo Lee is getting in terms of lines in general this week, especially when you compare it to someone like Aaron Rai. And it doesn't really make sense to me. Like you look at Mingwoo Lee's few starts, second last start, same as Aaron Rai at the same tournament, and basically all just top 25 finishes. Aaron Rai is a better stat fit. They both won at this course. Aaron Rai is in slightly better form as well. So that is strange to me, guys. And so in a weird way, I don't like betting it on Mingwoo Lee, and I don't like him as much DFS-wise this week because Aaron Rai on paper is just like a better value and better play. But still, Mingwoo Lee at 28 to 1 on BetMGM, like that to me is pretty encouraging. It's tough to pass up on that, right? He's one that like value wise does kind of stand out. And so I'm happy to get there. And then, yeah, Rory and Xander, they kind of just speak for themselves as plays. Just in general, you look at them, you know they're the top plays here. Both former winners at this event. Xander has made 3 straight cuts at this event. They both have, we haven't seen them too much lately. So we do have to worry about that variable a little bit. Let's see here. BetMGM 9-1. I'm happy to do that, honestly, especially in a week without Scotty. Sign me up for that. And same thing with Rory. Again, I'm a little bit surprised that we're getting Rory at less odds than Xander. It probably should be flipped, but we can still get him at 8-1 on most sites. His odds have slightly adjusted as well. Bet 365, you can still get him at 9-1. But 8-1, I'm still happy to do that because, I mean, that's part of the reason why I'm only doing 5 outright bets, because I'm betting on both Xander and Rory. Obviously, you can't load up on too much or else long term, that's not going to pay off. Now, I will say this week's a little bit more unique because I don't know. This was like probably the most thin, dialed in, I guess, if you will, player pool that I have in a while for the Scottish Open. And then, yeah, we have Tommy Fleetwood here, guys. So the average odds are giving Tommy Fleetwood about a 5% chance of winning. Kind of okay with that. He is someone that has produced great results here. 6th, 4th, 26th, and 2nd. 22-1 odds for him, for a guy that does get a lot of crap for not being able to win on the PGA Tour. And I know that this is still a PGA Tour event, but it's a DP Tour event as well. And maybe there is something to that. I do think he's a little bit maybe more comfortable over here, but he has been so solid. Now, he's maybe not the best stat fit. We do worry about that a little bit. Key stat-wise, let's see here. Par 5 scoring could struggle. Now, it's a par 70. The reason, it's so weird, though. Like, it's so weird that par 5 scoring is popping up as one of the top key stats on a par 70. But those are the holes that people have to be scoring on or not making mistakes on at this tournament. It's super strange that's popping up. But 58th in the field, there's a little bit of concern there. And then we look at the 4th key stat, birdie or better percentage, just not scoring that much. So again, if this does turn out to be maybe more of a scoring fest on paper than it's supposed to be, could have a little bit of hesitation with Tommy Fleetwood. Maybe he's just more of a better top 10 bet at 2-1. Kind of okay with that as well. Yeah, he's someone that does pop up. I mean, specialist-wise, guys, no really bad data points that we have coming in there for him, specialist-wise as well. So let's see. I do want to get into the other tournament here as well. So, yeah, we got some questions here from some of these DP Tour players. Guys, I really did not have that many in there this week. I wouldn't talk you out of them. I really couldn't get there with really any of them. More so in the other tournament, I actually was getting a little bit more exposure to them, the alternative field event. I didn't personally see that much value. And so we got another one here as well. I'm not going to be able to provide much here in terms of like those players. And I shouldn't say I wish I could. To me, it's probably not worthwhile for them. We do typically see the PGA Tour players play better. So yeah, I didn't see much there. And really the only player that I did like everyone else likes, and that's that what's his name? Tom Guy McKinnon or something. I don't even think of his name. He's like 7K this week. Has been playing really well on the DP Tour, but he's like 12%. So like it's just like, all right, we don't need to get there anymore. Yeah, I'll pull that up here just real quick. I know we're talking outrights, but we'll just talk about that real quick. So some of the more overvalued players are these DP Tour players. And it's not much. I mean, typically the way I like to look at this tool is like if someone's over 10% ownership, then we can start to think about it. When it's these, for example purposes, Ferguson here at 6.7 and 7%, like who cares at that point? Because if you're asking, you're already going to be overweight on them anyways, for the most part. Like you're probably at least double already. And so you're kind of making a stand already. When instead maybe it is Nick Kibben. I'm assuming that's how you say it. He is coming in at 12%. That actually maybe could be a little bit higher or a little bit lower. This is a weird week with especially the time, right? Like it starts in several hours here instead of at least 12 hours. So people are going to be more around ish until lineup lock. They're not going to be sleeping at lineup lock or waking up to lineup lock. Well, they are, but for the most part, a lot of people are going to be up later in the day, closer to lineup lock than normal. So I wouldn't be surprised to see some spikes or dips in ownership. But he's someone that is rightfully getting a lot of chatter. But also, do we really need to do that? I don't really think so. Like Ben Griffin is someone that I like at that same price tag who has been playing well and has been playing well on the PGA Tour, which caliber players is a little bit better. Again, it's a little bit of a home field advantage for some of these guys. I get that, but yeah, this is the one play where I was probably thinking we could get to a lot, and then I saw his ownership, and I'm like, okay, probably not doing that. And that I hate making reasons just based off of ownership. That was one that I made. And then yes, let's go ahead and just finish off these outrights here. Definitely open it up a little bit more here for the ISCO Championship. Is it ISCO or ISCO Championship? I have never heard of this company. I should probably Google what they do because I have no clue. And at least Barbasol, we know what they did. I'm trying to look it up. I'm actually curious now while we're doing the live stream. Business Manufacturing and Supply Company out of Schaumburg, Illinois. Interesting. That might just be one spot for them. Why are they sponsoring this event? It doesn't make sense. It's in Kentucky. It's like, I don't get it. It's super strange. All right. Anyways, that doesn't really matter. But yeah, so I didn't change the graphic here. Darn it. Hate that. Anyways, this is Luke Clan 10-1. This is the unfortunate side of this week, guys, that every single player on this list, at least the top ones, for the most part, we saw their odds get worse throughout the week, especially on the main sites like DraftKings and FanDuel, probably sites that get a little bit more volume than normal. Luke Clanton started at 14-1. He's now down to 10-1 on BetMGM. That was the best odds that we could get him on. From there, we got Mac 40-1 still on PointsBet. On a lot of sites, he's down to 25-1. So this is where I saw PointsBet still kind of sleeping. Joel Damon, Harry Hall, they're all players as well that I've seen their odds significantly get reduced. And if you're someone that does have access to a PointsBet, those are appealing bets there because 50-1, 66-1, still pretty good. Now, I know the question is going to be, well, I didn't get to them on Monday. The odds are like 30-1 right now. Would you still bet them? Yes. For these top 5 or so. If we're looking at Pearson Cootie at 80-1, I would still probably do it at 60-1. And Hayden Buckley, we're still getting good enough odds across the board. Like some sites have him about 50-1, but you can still get him at like 70-1 on BetMGM. So just do that. And so some of you guys are probably thinking, well, why are these good bets? I'll show you guys here that. I should mention though, super annoyed at Ricky Hoy's his odds change. I don't think I've seen many change like that. Where it just drastically gets reduced. His went from like 70 to 35-1, which is crazy. But just kind of looking at data wise, Ben Silverman just really checking all the boxes this week. 5 straight made cuts. Key stat wise, going to be top 20 in the field. Has made a start at this track in the past, so we like that there from him. Chan Kim's kind of a FOMO one that I'm worried about, but the form just isn't exactly there as I'd like to see. Same thing with Mac, but he's going to be a good staff, a good specialist as well. Recent form has kind of showed he can have those spike weeks. From there, Joel Damon, just good specialist, good stat fit for the field. It's kind of crazy, right? Like we compare this to the other event, and it's like, all right, this typically wouldn't be a good stat fit. Obviously, that's what we have. But second best in the field, recent form-wise, with 8 straight made cuts. And again, that kind of tells us the field that we have. Joel Damon has won an event like this in the past. So he's someone that's popping up. Harry Hall is actually the top play, which I don't really agree with that. I know it's the 9 to 5 mile, but there's so many different variables that go into that. So like the human aspect of it would say, all right, we're probably treating Luke Land as the top play. We're probably then shooting Benjamin Silverman as the top play. I would say Harry Hall should be treated as a top 7 play, not the best play. But still, that still tells us that we're getting some good value on him. And yeah, the value bet, I'm so mad at this from like 70-1 to 30-1. Frustrating there. Then Pearson Cootie, just and Hayden Buckley, both right there. So they have both been making some cuts. Both have shown a top 10 finish recently. Both relatively good stat fits as well. So these are more value-based bets this week. Kind of like Bryce Garnett. I kind of keep bringing this up, but we were able to hit him at 70-1 at the first secondary event of the year. Kind of in the same situation of Hayden Buckley and Pearson Cootie, where a little bit different with Garnett because he is like a secondary event specialist. And it was a track that he was really good at and had shown a little bit of form, a little bit different. But in terms of like overall play, kind of ranking out between like 10 and 15 in the model and, pretty good play relative to the field. That's kind of how these two play, where we're definitely chasing them more for their long shot nature with the odds that we were getting. Troy Merritt, top 20 bet. I don't think we need to do Troy Merritt this week. We'll say that for the 3M Open in a couple of weeks here. All right, so we're going to go a little bit faster here now. Spent a lot of time on the outright bets, which I think rightfully so. Let's jump into the ownership. I've kind of mentioned my thoughts on ownership already. We'll just kind of recap. I'm happy to be overweight on Corey Connors. If he's going to be sub 10%, I'm happy to be overweight on that. He's someone that should maybe a little bit too priced up, but relative to the field, I wouldn't say so. If he gives us a made cut and a top 30 finish, which he has been able to do, which is what he's being valued at, I am happy to be overweight on the field then with him. From there, really, again, just McKibben, I wanted to be on him, but now there's like over 10%, just probably no need to get there. And that's really it for ownership purposes. If we want to look at it in terms of like the top end, maybe who can we get on a little bit more than the field? There's really not much there. Again, Hideki, I just don't want to play him the week before a major. And this is kind of, you can see why Corey Connors is popping up then at that low ownership, at that price, especially compared to the players around him. He is a good play. And he is being a little bit undervalued, especially in terms of likelihood to play well, especially compared to the players around him. And then, yeah, from there, everyone's kind of collectively good with their projected ownership. So really not too much there. So with that, we can basically just jump into the lineup builder portion of this video. So let's do that. So I already showed you guys round one. I can kind of show you guys the Genesis Scottish Open. Let's see here. I need to refresh this. I've had this tab open a while too as well. No, there we go. So you guys can see the ownerships there. We'll just show you guys here. Don't exactly want to give out all the secrets here with the lineup process there. Don't need anyone duping them too much. If you guys want to dupe them, you can sign up for the membership, $10 a month. I'll just do that. I'll do the plug real quick. $10 a month normally, $5 a month right now, 50% off for a new member. Use the promo code SUMMER. This is going to be working until August 1st. First 200 people that sign up get access to that promo code. Guys, I hate having to do the business side of it. I really do. But looking at ownerships right now, so kind of show usage, what we're looking at. I did want to cap a lot of people, but I also I worked this backwards. So I did max exposure at 15% because I do want to spread out my ownership this week, because I do think it's going to be a little bit more random, especially with the course projecting to play maybe a little bit easier than it typically has. And so I kind of reverse engineered it here, where if you set the max exposures, it's actually going to give you more than what you wanted for those players. So I did that for a lot of the players that I'm going out of my way to play, either value-wise or by GPP-wise. But for the most part, I did want to get a lot of Xander, a lot of Tommy Fleetwood. I'm obviously going to be close to double the field on them. Aaron Rye will be double the field. Corey Connors will be double the field by a lot. Davis Thompson's an interesting one that I haven't really talked about. Let's see. I believe I wrote about him. Yeah, so the only worry that we have with Davis Thompson this week is that he doesn't have any course experience. That is something that can add up. But also, we got to factor in the fact that he is making that plane right over. How much experience does he have with that? Honestly, like I don't know. He's a younger guy. Has he even done that at all? You never know. But also, he is coming in off of that victory. Now, if you watched him, you saw that he had a very calm approach to his game, really the last few weeks, but especially last week. He never got too high or too low. And so I think he's going to be mentally prepared to go for this week. And so I'm happy to get a lot of him again. And if he burns me, this is one of those spots where on paper, fantastic play, fantastic value. On paper, the correct play. This is where the human element comes in a little bit, where we do have to factor in, okay, well, we have those three variables there. What do we do with that? Again, no course experience, plane ride, travel, like adjusting for that whole part of it. There's a reason why PGA Tour pros typically go a week early or two before a major to get adjusted. And he's coming in off of a victory. Now, that's kind of 3 strikes and you're out. But at the same time, he's been rewarding the last 2 weeks, so I'm kind of okay with it. And he's just had such a cheap price tag where it makes sense. And really, the other player that I'm getting on a lot more than a field as well, Thomas Dietrich. Extremely good specialist, extremely good course history. Not the best stat that we haven't seen too much, but still 5 straight make cuts on the PGA Tour. They're playing solid. So Thomas Dietrich is something I'm happy to get to as well. And so those are kind of some of the players I'm a little bit overweight on. And so you guys can see kind of the exposures that I'm getting right now. I'll show you guys this real quick. I don't really care too much. I was kind of joking about this. But you guys can see ownership wise, definitely more spread out in terms of who I'm getting to. Very much spread out. And that's what I was going for this week. But I think that's pretty much it, guys. I keep wanting to make these 30-minute videos, and it's 40 minutes now. There's just so much to talk about. Again, that's kind of the issue with golf content these days. Is when I got into the space, it was just DFS, so much easier to cover it. Now there's so many different avenues, so many people betting on stuff from different states. I kind of mentioned like it's kind of weird. The best bets that we get are typically on a lot of sites where people don't have access to it. That 365, I think, is like Indiana and Iowa. They typically give us the best lines, but it's like, do I call that out? I don't. It's a weird balance. But if you guys enjoyed the live stream here, and you guys have never been in one of these before, I have been trying to do these more, basically every single Wednesday. Probably won't be this late, but be on the lookout for that, whether it's on YouTube or Twitter, and streaming on both. So just be on the lookout for that on Wednesdays. We'll be doing that next week as well for the Open Championship. But that's going to be all for today's video. If you guys want access to any of the tools that you saw, head on over to 95sports.com, give you access to all this as well as some prop betting tools for you guys as well for Underdog and Prize Picks as well. All right. Thank you guys for watching. Good luck this week. And as always, let's keep cashing.